We are in Bari in southern Italy. In the next few days, world leaders will start arriving here. They're coming to Apulia for the G7 summit. It's a gathering of some of the world's richest economies. The G7 is basically a group of Western elites. The members include Canada, France, Germany, Japan, the United Kingdom, the United States, and the host Italy. A total of 7 countries, hence the name G7. Now, their meeting comes at an interesting time because Europe is seeing a political churn with a major election. America is heading to polls. The wars in Ukraine and Gaza continue, and Western economies are still bearing the brunt of it. So the G7 is trying to reinvent itself to show more inclusivity, also hoping to find solutions for some of the world's most pressing challenges. And Italy has put forward an ambitious agenda. It has spelled out some priorities, like the wars in Ukraine and Gaza, the G7's relationship with developing nations and emerging economies, especially in the Indo-Pacific region, and the advent of artificial intelligence. These are the key agenda items. Some European priorities have also been kept on the list. They are on Giorgia Meloni's mind, like illegal migration. The Italian Prime Minister will push the G7 to take a tougher stand on this issue, on illegal immigration. Expect her to engage from a position of strength.
I am ready to welcome and I am proud that this nation presents itself at the G7 in Europe with the strongest government of all.
So the agenda is diverse, as is the guest list. Beyond the G7 leaders, Italy has invited at least 12 other heads of state. And this is quite a significant number. Look at the tally of the previous hosts. Japan had invited 8 other countries, 8 countries apart from the G7 members. Before Japan, Germany and Britain had hosted this summit, and they had invited 5 countries each. Now, Italy has clearly surpassed them this time with 12. India's Prime Minister Modi is among the invitees. Prime Minister Modi is expected to arrive here on Friday, and this would be his first overseas trip in his 3rd term as India's Prime Minister. Who else is invited? Brazil's President Lula da Silva, Argentina's President Javier Milei, Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, and Jordan's King Abdullah. Also Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, and this too would be a first. The first time a leader from Saudi Arabia will be visiting this summit. Never before has a leader from Saudi Arabia been invited to the G7. Also, a large contingent from Africa is expected to attend, so there could be several opportunities to build consensus, provided they can build consensus on which issues to focus on. And this is where the G7's differences start to show. Take the United States, for example. It is pushing for a $50 billion loan for Ukraine. Where will this money come from? Russian assets worth tens of billions of dollars have been frozen by the West. The US wants to use this money, frozen Russian assets in the West, for the loan to Ukraine. That's what America proposes. It wants the rest of the G7 to agree to this. So far, there is no consensus. Nonetheless, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has been invited for this summit. And Moscow has been watching all of this. A few days back, Russia issued a warning to the West. It said, if the G7 goes ahead with this plan, Moscow will respond in kind.
We have the same opportunities. We have frozen money in EU accounts. We have assets. We also get income. If there is a decision, we will act similarly. We will respond in kind.
Then there is China. Last year, the G7 took a stand against Beijing. They called out China for its economic coercion. They pledged to take action to counter Chinese attempts to use its economic power and exploit vulnerabilities in trade ties. But the measures they announced were limited. In 2023, the G7 just agreed to share information. This year, there are calls to deal with the oversupply from China. The US and France are pushing for this. They want steep tariffs on Chinese imports. But for now, any punitive action appears unlikely. It will most probably be just a statement of condemnation. But Beijing is already pushing back.
The G7's hyping up of China's overcapacity and its attempts to impose restrictions on China's new energy products are a complete departure from the facts and economic laws and are protectionism in nature, which are not in the interests of any party.
The summit begins on Thursday. The G7 may be trying to reinvent itself, but handling these differences will be the real test. We'll be tracking all of it from ground zero for you.
Firstpost reports from the world's second largest continent. Hello, I'm Alison Lagrange. A very warm welcome from Durban, South Africa. We get you the news and the newsmakers from Africa. From elections to climate change to innovations and opportunities. As the world's attention shifts, we report from Africa, the heart of the global south. Join me every weekday live on Firstpost.